Hello and welcome to Connecting Kitsap. My name is Matt Murphy and I'm the president of the Port Orchard Chamber of Commerce and your host for today's podcast. With Connecting Kitsap, we put you in touch with what to do, where to go, and the people to know in Kitsap County. Hey everybody, and welcome to today's podcast of Connecting Kitsap, where I have the opportunity to interview Deputy Chief Mann, who is the new Deputy Chief for the City of Port Orchard. She's not new to Port Orchard. She graduated from South Kitsap High School in the mid-'80s, and she spent 20 years in the corporate world, and then she decided that she wanted to become a police officer. She went to the police academy. She was hired by the City of Port Orchard, worked her way up through the ranks. She was a training officer, a sergeant, and then at last she is a deputy chief. And so we're going to go ahead and listen to her interview. It's a pretty inspiring story. In the meantime, I want to give a shout out real quick to our sponsors for the South Kitsap Chamber of Commerce, which include Walmart, Dana's Heating and Cooling, Peninsula Credit Union, the Kitsap Sun, Grocery Outlet, Bargain Market, Excel Business Systems, Port Orchard Ford, Don Jake CPA, Farmers Insurance, the Thompson Agency, SurfPro of Kitsap County, Sunrise Gas and Chimney Service, Southern Beckham Atwater and Barry, as well as Air Masters Heating and Cooling. So if you get an opportunity to say hi to those folks, please do so. But right now, let's go ahead and jump right into the interview with Deputy Chief Mann. So welcome, and today I am here with Deputy Chief Donna Main with the Port Orchard Police Department. Donna is the new police deputy chief. She rose up from the ranks, and she's new to, well, she's not really new to Port Orchard because she's been here a while. Donna, can you tell us a little bit about maybe who you are and what you've done, and why in the world would you want to be the deputy chief of the Port Orchard Police Department?
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for having me on this. Yeah, that's a good question. I'll start back on. So I used to work in the corporate industry for several years. Most of my career right out of college, I got into the food manufacturing business and became an account manager. And I worked in that industry for probably 20 years. And while it was a great job, and it really fit my family because my kids were into sports and I could be at home, and I didn't have to travel too much, but it gave me that opportunity to kind of be a professional woman in a field, as well as being a parent as well. So for that, I was extremely blessed to have that opportunity. But you know, at 42, I'm not really sure what happened, but I think perhaps I had my midlife crisis at that moment. And instead of buying like a $100,000 sports car, I decided that I wanted more out of life. I wanted to give back, and I really wanted to give back to this community where I was not born, but I was raised here in Port Orchard. I've lived here for over 45 years, I'd say. So I've always had that desire of going into law enforcement or going into some type of public service arena. And I actually met a really good friend of mine who was in law enforcement at the time. And she just encouraged me, you know, it's never too late to try something new. And I drug my feet probably for a couple of years thinking there's no way, you know, someone's going to hire a 40-year-old into this profession. And I don't know what happened at 42. I said, you know, I'm all in and I'm going to start getting into shape, and I'm going to start studying, and I'm going to go on ride-alongs, and I'm going to find out what it is about the Port Orchard Police Department that is enticing for me to be a part of. So I did just that. And I was just fortunate enough that at the time, the chief saw the possibility of that dream of mine coming true, and gave me a job offer, and went through the academy. and landed here in Port Orchard. So my first choice of where I wanted to work, and my only choice that I really wanted, was to serve in Port Orchard. I can't say that many officers like to do that. They don't typically like to work in the same city that they live, and that they have family and friends. And it is an interesting outing most of the times. Even just going to the grocery store on my day off, I will recognize a handful of people, but that doesn't concern me so much. I think as long as you treat the people with dignity and respect, no matter what their crime is, you know, it comes back, and it makes those encounters a little easier. That they remember that they weren't treated horribly, and they weren't treated unfairly. And so that's what I really strive to do, knowing that that would be a big possibility living here and also being in law enforcement here. So, and I've arrested people that I went to school with. I mean, it's not comfortable, but I don't make it personal. And so, I got into this position, and I was back in 2009 is when I started here. And I was a patrol officer for 3 years. And we have a policy, if you've been here 3 years, you can do some specialty positions, and field training officer was one of those that I became a field training officer. So I was able to train some of the new officers here that were coming in, which is kind of a supervisor of one, you could say. So you're helping this new officer, learn the ways of becoming a cop and our policies and procedures and things of that. So, and then the sergeant's test came about. And so I took that as well, not thinking that I would finish where I did, but I did finish in that top spot after that test, which was, I must say that I don't go into anything without being prepared. Like, I like to prepare. I don't like the unknown or feeling like I'm not in control of my own destiny. So, so I took the sergeant test, and then I did finish number one out of the candidates. And then that's when the job for sergeant came about and was offered, and I accepted. And that position was, a lot of people talk about being a sergeant as being probably the best position you can have in any police department. And it really was phenomenal for me. I learned so much from being from being a supervisor of 5 officers, and just amazing group of people that I worked for. I felt like I worked for them more than, that was my expectation, is that if they needed something, I was always going to put them first. And I think you have to have that servant heart to be in this position anyway, in this profession. And I certainly didn't get where I'm at alone. It took everyone here in this department to help me get where I was at. So I put in the hours and the work, but I had a lot of support here. And I learned a lot from, the veteran officers that were here. So I can't say that I jumped at the deputy chief position as fast as the sergeant position. I know when Deputy Chief Schuster was retiring, he had, given the department almost a year, I think, notice. And that's when Chief Brown, probably about 5 months into that period, he had come to me and asked if I would be interested in perhaps looking at the deputy chief position. And at the time, again, I loved being a sergeant. I loved getting out and dealing with the community. And I feel like I have built a good reputation out there where I can offer my help. And I didn't want to lose that part. And I felt like that was maybe my calling, and what I should be doing is really, helping those that are in need. And I wasn't sure if this position, the deputy chief, would allow me to still have some influence over, helping people. And so it took about 5 months for me to actually get back to the chief and give him an answer. So it wasn't a quick process. It was something that I really needed to ponder and ask a bunch of friends and family of, do they see me in this position? Do they think I'm capable, or is this a position where I can maybe help the new sergeants? Because we have 3 out of our 4 sergeants are brand new to our department. So that's an opportunity, I looked at and said, maybe my position should be as deputy chief is to help guide them, where they can have that same effect on the community members and their officers that report to them. And then that's kind of how I would spread out my community engagement, would be through the sergeants and then through the officers, instead of me personally doing it, I guess. So it took a while, but here I am. I think today's the 4th, so I'm exactly 1 month into my new position. And it's eye-opening to see the admin side of a police business. It's you just never, you don't know what you don't know. And you're in your position in your world as a sergeant, and you're responding to calls and you're dealing with your people, and you don't really know the stuff that's happening behind the scene. And there's a lot of stuff that has to be done to make the police department run smoothly. And so Chief Brown.
So Chief Brown's only been there, I don't know, a year and a half or so. I was actually had an opportunity to be on one of the panels that sat in on the police chief hiring process, and so he's been there about a year and a half. You've been there now for 20 plus years, right? Is that so? How is actually, first of all, do you have any regrets yet? I mean, the 1 month that you've been deputy chief, any regrets yet?
No, not really. I mean, I do miss, I have the radio on, so I'm always listening to the radio and what calls are coming out. And, a call will come out and I'm like, oh, I should grab my stuff and go. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not my role anymore.
Right.
So that part's kind of hard, but it's hard to take I was always such a go-getter and wanted to be out there doing. So it's kind of hard to take that part out of me. I'm hopeful that when I get my legs under me a little bit more and I stop drinking from that fire hose a little bit, that I'll have things have kind of settled down, and I'll understand my role a little bit more and have a little bit of more time to actually get out and see what the sergeants and the officers are actually doing on scene. And that part, I'm really looking forward to getting to that point in this position, because it's important to me not to lose where I came from, which would be on the street.
Right. Yeah.
Serving the people. So, and I say that with all honesty. If you're in my office, I'll show you, if you can see this here, I'll show you, because I don't forget where I came from, because it's so important that it has guided me to where I am today. So all the highs and all the lows. So I'll show you what I have in my office. So it reminds me of where I came from. So this is my reminder of where I came from for 20 years of my life, working in the the corporate side of the world. So I have my can of Chef Boyardee, because that was one of the items that I sold working for ConAgra Foods, and it really paved the way to who I am today. So yeah. I have that in my office. I've always had it up, not to look backwards, but to be appreciative of what I had. And so that's cool. That's cool. My can on the shelf.
So working with the chief now, how's that working, and the plans that you guys have together? I was on the strategic planning advisory group that was put together, and I think we've all come up with a really great tool and I don't want to say plan because that's up to you guys, but working with the chief, where do you see the police department, and what are your guys' in working together? What are the kind of the goals?
Well, there's so many. He's just brought, Chief Brown has brought some structure to the department. And, after reading the strategic plan that you helped put together, we have a lot of work to do to get to answer those questions that were in front of us on that plan. And a big one, is really working with the community more and understanding what is it that the community expects from their police department, and then trying to live up to those very high standards, which they should have. We are given much, and we're in a position that we can take freedoms away, and we don't take that lightly. And we need to build that community trust, and we need to be reminded of that. I think every day that our values are service, honor, and integrity, and we really want to spread that message to our officers so that they understand they're not just words, that they are things that we actually want to live by in this department, by choosing to live by those three values. You almost can't go wrong if you keep those three things in mind when you're dealing with public. If you're servicing and you're honorable and you have integrity and you don't move your integrity line, you have it solid, you can't, the chances of you just really making a huge mistake is minimal if you keep those things in mind. And that's really a big thing for our department, was to establish some values, some goals, mission statement. And we don't want those to just be words. We really want to include the community like we have never before really got their say. I mean, we do interviews now for entry and lateral, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. But for the first time, we've included a community member to sit in on those interviews and give their perspective of these potential officers that are going to be servicing, maybe have to come to their house or their business, and they get a say in whether or not they qualify to move on to the next phase, to be considered to be an officer here. So it's a great concept. It's one that, I just never really thought about it when I was first starting out, that why wouldn't you ask the people that you're working for? Because technically, I mean, we're working for the community. And I would think you'd probably want to know, what is it that they think you do? What is it that they know you do? And what do they want you to do? What's important to them may not be a blurb on our radar, because we have missed communicating, getting our message out. And I think with Chief Brown, by doing the strategic plan and having these advisory boards, it closes that gap of what does the police department do? Because I'm sure a lot of people watch TV and they watch the police shows and they think that that's, really real life. And while some of it is, but there's a lot more behind the scene that plays into making sure that a police department runs smoothly, and making sure that we're just doing the right things. It's kind of a checks and balances thing when you have people outside of the police department, and somebody says, hey, that's not right, that's not the thing that you should be doing, and it gives us another set of eyes that where someone's not, they don't have that personal, or those they're not personally connected to it, so they can be honest and truthful and tell you that doesn't seem right. And it's just good to get a new set of eyes and a new perspective. So having that community member has really been an eye-opener for me. I never even thought about having somebody from the community tell us what they think we should be doing. Like, That seems
Yeah,
like a weird concept, but it's a good concept because that's who we're giving our services to. And if we're not doing the right thing, we need to know about it.
yeah.
So
That's one of the things that I thought. The very first meeting that we had with the advisory board was a lot of background and a lot of information. And frankly, I was like, wow, that's so much. I know that we've talked about the training hours that you guys should have, that you should have in the different areas, um, and the community involvement. I know that that's one of the huge things, the engagement that Chief Brown is interested in. Um, and I would encourage anybody listening to reach out to the chief to see, if they have any recommendations, because I know the advisory board was made up of a lot of different people and a lot of different perspectives. And like I said, I think it was probably just as enlightening for us as it was for the chief and anybody else from the department that was there. So that was really great. And I think part of the reason that this was all put together too was to address some of the concerns that's going around right now around the world, as far as, or at least around the United States, as far as law enforcement is concerned. And for the city of Port Orchard, do you think, or I guess the challenges of law enforcement in Seattle and Lakewood, where Chief came from, at one point he was a Lakewood officer, and um, is Port Orchard faced with those same issues, and do you guys have to be concerned about those same issues as some of the larger departments are?
I think we have to be concerned with them. I think we can't just say that we're a small town and nothing ever happens here, because at some of the cases that I went to, I'm like, holy cow. I mean, we had a tornado here. When have we ever said that? Never, but it happened. We had two people shooting at each other a couple weeks ago in a parking lot. Like, when does that happen? Well, it can happen at any time. And so as a police department, while we don't make the news, and we knock on wood, while we don't want to make the news unless it's really good, um, we have to prepare for those. And if we're not learning from other departments and what is taking place, then we're not doing it right ourselves. So that's why we do the training. That's why we do less lethal training. That's why we have some less lethal tools, so that we can try and deconflict a situation without having to use uh, force, trying to use starting at the bottom and stuff. So while while we are a small town, we certainly don't feel like we're exempt from any of the stuff that is happening. It can happen anywhere, and that's really what police officers are paid to do. Is we're not really paid. I say that we're not paid. You pay me to do things that I may have to do, if that makes sense. The stuff that nobody really wants to talk about, the ugly stuff, is really what police officers are paid to do, to have to respond to these horrible scenes, or, people shooting at each other in a parking lot, like everyone else is running away. I mean, we don't get to, we're going to run to it, but it can happen here. And I think that what's important is that we look at those bigger agencies like Seattle and Portland and Washington D.C. and everything that's been going on, that we have to look at them, learn from them, and just be prepared as best we can. We're certainly not a large agency, so we don't have a lot of the tools that Seattle and Portland can deploy, but we have agencies that we work very closely with in the Kitsap County region and Pierce County, and but we do prepare. That's why we train. We train for the day that we hope never comes.
Right, right,
But
yeah.
it could happen.
The earlier today, and people can watch this on our podcast and videocast if they want to. We actually had the mayor speak, and one of the things and I guess this kind of goes to one of the challenges facing Port Orchard. One of the things that he had mentioned is that you guys are a little short-handed. You alluded to that a little bit ago. what seems to be the challenges facing, hiring a new person to come in and be a police officer in little old Port Orchard?
Yeah, it is one of our it's one of our challenges, and it's top of mind for myself and for Chief Brown and the mayor. We know we have 4 spots that are open right now, and it's not like you can, we don't want people that just wake up one day, they watched cops on TV and decided I'm going to be a cop today. It takes a little more than that to get started, I think, and we are in the process of every month, the first Tuesday of every month, we're going to hold entry and lateral interviews until we fill those 4 positions. But it could be, we just held one on the 2nd. We had a few candidates out of there that seemed like they could be good prospects to become a police officer. But it should be noted that we're not going to just accept a body to fill the seat on the bus. We'd rather have the empty seat if it's not the right person. So becoming an officer, at least coming one here, we have some high standards that have to be met and that are expected, to become an officer here. We do not want to hire the wrong person, because then it's not good in the department, and it certainly wouldn't be good in the community. So, we're trying to be proactive, I guess, in our attempts to hire, but it's been a struggle. We really thought, with the amount of officers leaving some of the bigger departments, that they would, be reaching out to some of the smaller agencies that are hiring. The problem that we're finding too is, when you live in Seattle, their starting pay it's tremendous amount more than what an officer on this side of the water would make. So trying to make that difference up can be difficult. And I think if you ask any of the surrounding agencies in Kitsap County, they're all finding the same problem, is trying to close that salary gap. It's pretty big when you work in a big city to a small city. So, and we have things we have to work on here. We have to be able to get our message out that we're hiring, and we have to get it out to the right places. Just posting it on our city website doesn't really cut it anymore. We have to reach all kinds of demographics, and we want to be diverse. So we have to do a better job at getting, what it is we can offer, and get that out there for people to apply. So if you have any suggestions, I'll take them, because we do want to hire people. The people that we have right now, granted, we're 4 people down, and it's going to take, the academy alone is 5 months.
Wow.
if they're an entry level candidate. So just to become an officer, they have to go through public safety testing. So there's a couple of days. They have to do a physical, they have to do a writing, they have to get their name out, their test scores out to the departments that they want to apply for. Then they have to wait for a phone call if they qualify to get on the list. And then do they make the cutoff for the interview? After that, it's a chief's interview if we think they are worthy of moving forward. And then comes the poly, the psych, the medical. There's so many more things where you have an opportunity of failing out before you even get offered the job. Then if you get the job, it is 5 months at the police academy if you're an entry level. And then when you graduate that, you come out and you're going to do, I think it's 14 weeks on field training with a field training officer. So you're going to learn our policies and our demographics and our geography and our things that we do, how to report right, meet all the prosecutors, and all of that. So it's not a post a job and fill it right away. It's going to be best case scenario, if you were to hire someone today, you might be able to get them on the road by themselves in solo patrol, 6, 7, maybe in 8 or 9 months. Maybe 9 months is really thin, but maybe in that. So it's a process, and it's it's an expense with time and effort to try to get the right person in the right spot, and then train them to be safe. I mean, that's our goal,
Yeah.
for them to be
Sure.
safe
Sure.
and stuff. So it's a battle that I think every department is facing. But I can tell you that the officers that we have right now, I mean, I couldn't be more proud of them. They work so hard, and they take every call, and it doesn't matter that I mean, they are working hard to respond to what the community demands when they call, which is excellent service. So it'd be nice to give them some extra bodies so they can feel like they can,
Right.
take time off,
Yeah.
needed time off.
So outside of fully staffing, actually, so how many police officers are there now versus how many do you need? Do you want total?
Well, if right now we have spots for four officers, and then right now I think we have, so we have, I'm trying to think, 10, I think we have 10, 11 officers right now, and then we have 4 sergeants. So we have about 15 patrol plus sergeants on the road responding to
Right.
calls.
Right.
We have an investigative division, which we have a detective. And so we'd like to put another detective in. We usually have 2. We're down to 1 right now because of a promotion. So the detective that was in there is now a sergeant. So we need to fill that spot. So I mean, we have room for growth. But again, we're going to put the right person in that spot.
Sure. Yeah. So the department's, hopefully, ideally, it's growing, and I know that another thing that was mentioned this morning, and I think we'll probably just kind of wrap up with this, and as far as where the direction that things are going. But talk to me about accreditation. What does it mean? What does it mean to be an accredited police department?
Well, that's something that I'm also learning too, because we're the only Kitsap County agency that's not fully credited yet, which means that we operate at a high standard. Our practices are the best. We do the best practice for things that we do. We track, we track every use of force, every pursuit, everything that's puts the community, at risk. It's doing the right thing. It's having set standards that we have to abide by, and it's doing the right thing. I mean, if I could sum up what accreditation is, it's really just doing the right thing as a police department, and we want to be amongst the best. So in order to do that, we need to be accredited, and there's a lot of work that we still need to do, but I think we're almost at 60% of where you need to be to have that audit come in and tell you that you've made it. So we're getting there, and we're excited to get there. It's always, you never want to be the only one that's not doing something that everyone else is doing it right. We want to be a part of that as well. We want to lead the way as well. It's just going to take some hard work to get there. It's all new to everyone that's at Port Orchard. Chief Brown came in, and prior to that, he helped Paulsbo get credited, so he has a really good grasp of what that means. So it's our job and the chief's job to explain the why to everyone else in our department, and to the community, and to the mayor and council as to why that's important. And I think he's done a good job of that. And I think we have people and community members behind us thinking, yeah, that's the right way to go. We do. If we're going to have a police department, then why would we not want one that is accredited and is doing the right things? So, so I think we're on track. we're getting things done, and it is new to all of us, but we have an open mind, and we're willing to put in that hard work to get us there.
Well, great. Yeah, it sounds like you were a stepping stone in the advancement of the Port Orchard Police Department. I know that the mayor and the chief think highly of you, and of course you're a South Kitsap graduate, so that just works
Go
for me.
Wolves.
You know, go Wolves. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's really exciting to have you here, and appreciate the service that you've provided to the community since 2009-ish, and many more years to come. Maybe someday you'll be a chief main, huh? Is that
I'm still taking it all in with the deputy chief, but you never know. I don't want to say no to anything.
right?
It's I look forward to the day that I can that we can talk again, and I can tell you that I've got my legs under me, and things are running really smoothly, and we've filled the positions in our office, and we're doing the right things, and
Right.
I look forward to that. I have a lot of learning to do in this position, but the one thing that will always be, top of mind is really the people that I serve, and my sergeants and the officers here. So
Right. Well,
I'm blessed to have such a good group of men and women.
well, I'm confident that you'll do a great job. I have confidence in the chief and in the mayor, so that's encouraging for the future. And so I don't
Yeah.
know if there's anything that you'd like to say to wrap things up as far as the police department is concerned. You know, buckle up, drive safely, you know, all that other good cliche stuff. You got anything new for us to wrap things up with?
I don't know
I
about
caught you off
new.
guard on that one.
Yeah, I think thank you for the time
We were.
for
Well, thank you for joining us today, and great story. And I think it's important that, you know, for everybody in South Kitsap, because it's interesting that, you know, the city of Port Orchard is a small piece of South Kitsap, but the Port Orchard Police Department and the South Kitsap residents, they interact all the time. Everybody drives through Port Orchard at some point during the week, and I want to thank you for what you do. Say thanks to all your guys next time you see them on behalf of the citizens of South Kitsap, as well as the Port Orchard and community. So thank
I
you.
certainly will do that. Yeah, thank you, Matt, for having me today, and I look forward to many more conversations with you,
Absolutely.
and building that community relationship. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Sounds like fun. All right. Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Well, there you have it, folks. I don't know about you, but that was pretty cool. Again, her story of going from the corporate world to the law enforcement world to being a deputy chief here in the city of Port Orchard is pretty incredible. Thank you for joining us. If you get an opportunity to visit any of the sponsors, I'd ask you to please do that. If you see them, thank them for their support of the South Kitsap Chamber of Commerce. And as always, remember to love local and shop. Thanks, and have a great day.